and welcome back to the Deck Box. Thanks a lot for watching. This week on our deck tech video, we will be looking at another deck that is mine, another deck that I made. And I'll be looking at somebody else's deck next week. This week, this deck just kind of made sense though. Somebody was asking me about decks that are inexpensive and decks that have some cheap cards. Not cheap as in mana cost, but actually cheap as in the money it takes to buy them. So we'll be looking at my mono red Goblins with artifacts and Kuldotha Rebirth. Because it is a fairly inexpensive deck. It's about $30, it said online, for all the pieces. You know, it could be around that. It really depends on what you have already. A lot of it's M12, some of it's Mirrodin, but we'll take a look in just a minute. So, thanks a lot for watching. Let's jump right into it. Alright, here we are. This is the mono red artifact Goblin deck. It is standard. It is pretty much the funnest deck I have to play. That's not true, but it's fun to play. And let's dive right into it. So, you see that we have red spells, and we also have artifacts. I kind of, already told you that though. So let's move in and look at some of the cards. First off, we have Goblin Chieftain. He has a 3 mana drop for +1/+1 and haste for all your goblins. And also, he has haste. So that's pretty awesome. He's very useful. And then you have an Adaptive Automatron, just to kind of do his job a little bit easily. It's another card that does the same job, or half of it. He gives other creatures with the same type +1/+1. So that's kind of like 5 chieftains, or like 4.5 chieftains. And then I have a Bloodshot, well, I have 2 Bloodshot trainee. If his power is 4 or greater, he can deal 4 damage by tapping. So he's a really good like burning card. He just keeps hitting people. And he starts at 2 and 3, so you need to get him up 2 points, which isn't that hard with that many chieftains and an automatron. And then also other cards to put him up, like the Piston Sledge and the Silvok Lifestaff. So a couple cards on him, and then that ability is able to, start swinging and doing damage. And then also you have Spike Shot Elder, who with 3 mana, he can deal damage equal to his power. He starts at 1, so it's really not worth it to pay 3 mana for. But if, same thing, if he gets bigger with those cards, or those cards, he starts being able to deal a lot of damage. And if you have 6 mana, you can do that twice. So he's definitely a good card, and he can finish games for you once in a while. And then we have a bit of a combo-y kind of thing over here. We have Goblin Arsonist, which I like to have out first turn. There's 4 of them for 1 mana. Put him out. He's a 1/1 who, when he dies, deals 1 damage. So you can use him to burn other cards, stuff like that. Or if you get your hands on one of these other nifty cards down here, a Goblin Grenade for 1 mana, sacrifice target Goblin and deal 5 damage. So use the Goblin Grenade with the Goblin Arsonist to do 6 damage altogether in 2 different ways. 1 damage one way, and 5 damage another, or to the same. Either way, very versatile. And then we have Artillerize as well, which does essentially the same thing, except for it costs more mana, costs 4 mana that time, but you can sacrifice an artifact as well, which helps you when you're trying to get rid of an artifact, but we'll get that in a minute. We also have Blister Stick Shaman, who deals 1 damage when he comes out, so he's a nice little burner, and also he costs 3 mana, get him out fairly early, does 2 and 1. He's just a decent middle card to have. And then we have 4 Goblin War Drivers. Very, very important card to this deck. It has Battle Cry, so if you have a lot of goblins out, he starts doing really good things for the damage being dealt. And then we have our artifact portion. We have 4 Ichor Wellsprings, which is very important because the card draw is really necessary. Everything in this deck is pretty cheap, so your hand's going to be emptying quickly. You want to get cards back into your hand so you can continuously keep the pressure on. So that's why you have 4 Ichor Wellsprings. They draw a card when they come out. They also draw a card if they go to the graveyard. So you need to get rid of the Ichor Wellspring somehow. And how are we going to do that? Kuldotha Rebirth. 1 mana, sack an artifact, get 3 1/1 goblins. Not a huge deal unless you have a chieftain out, which makes them 2/2, or a chieftain and an automatron. Now they're 3/3s. Use a War Driver with that. Now they're 4/3 when they attack, and they can really add up, So that's that. I might be putting another Kuldotha Rebirth in. Really depends on the balance. So there's 3 Kuldotha Rebirth to get rid of the Ichor Wellspring, or you can use it on the Panic Spellbomb as well, which, when it goes to the graveyard, you pay 1 red mana, and you're able to draw a card. So you want to be able to get rid of those as well. You can sack them, and do that, but it's a little bit more useful to use it for Artillerize or for Kuldotha Rebirth. And then we also have Sylvok Lifestaff, which is cheap, easy to get out there. Use it to proc Kuldotha Rebirth if you need to, or of course you can just use it to put it on a Goblin Arsonist and then destroy the Goblin Arsonist with a Goblin Grenade, which would then give you 3 life as well as doing 6 damage. So it's a nice little combo. Then Piston Sledge, also really good because it's fairly cheap. It's 3 mana for a +3/+1. We're able to use that to get the Bloodshot Trainees and the Spike Shot Elders powers up, which is very important to be able to deal damage with them. And also, when it comes out, it goes straight onto the creature. And then you can sacrifice an artifact to move it to a different creature, which lets you sacrifice an artifact to get rid of Ichor Wellspring. So that's another way to get rid of that. So basically everything is working together. This is a 40 spell to 20 land deck, and it's a lot of fun to play, and it's fairly cheap. So that is that. That's my Goblin deck. I hope you enjoyed. You'll join me again on the deck box on Saturday for the next gameplay video. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and roll for choice.